Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I am your host every Tuesday night for Zoom at 8. As well, I am your lender of choice when it comes to doing multifamily or any of the other asset classes. We are specialists in multifamily, but we can help you in any of your needs. So we've been doing multifamily, we've been doing commercial real estate for 38 years. We got into multifamily about 15 years, and we work with a lot of folks to help them understand and educate them about real estate and multifamily. So if you are looking at a deal and you want to know, hey, what is the lender going to bring? That's where I come in. You don't want to put in an LOI until you have what the proceeds are going to be from the lender. So please, if we can look at your T12, the rent roll, and OM, which is an offering memorandum, and your underwriting, before you put in an LOI, let us take a look at it. We will get with the appraisers, we'll get with historical data from the lender's position and give you exactly how much, based on those financials, how much we can bring to the transaction. You know, your lender is your biggest partner. So you want to make sure you know, like, and trust this person, because we're going to help you along the way. So tonight, I wanted to bring you this special guest. I call my guests industry experts, because once you do a deal, you are now an expert. While you have a ton to continue to learn, you have put yourself out there. And tonight we have Lindsay Massengale, who she has 18 years of project management experience. She has managed projects ranging from remodels, single family new construction, to apartment buildings, and a Marriott hotel, actually. So this varied experience not only illustrates her versatility, but also enhances her capabilities in handling large-scale projects, contractors, budgets, and an expertise in building relationships to create a team culture. So Lindsay is here. She just closed in April her first deal. So tonight we're here to show you how to dream and to put the mindset in place so that you too can put the pen to paper and take action, because Lindsay was able to do that. She got into the Warriors of Wealth program back in 2023. So it's only taken her 1 year, and she successfully closed. Now, some people start in single family, right? And we go to duplexes, we go to 4, we go to 10. Lindsay started in multifamily with 37 units in Kansas City. So I'm excited for you guys to hear her story, to say that it is possible. All right. Now, the big thing that about that Lindsay, that I love about her, is that she was a professional soccer player. So you don't have to be a person that's brought up in the finance, right? You can be an expert in soccer, or you can be a mom, or you can be anything you want to be to continue to learn in real estate. So here we go, Lindsay. Welcome to Zoom at 8. How are you tonight?
Thank you. Wow, that was quite an introduction. I'm good. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on tonight, and thanks for everyone for coming. Appreciate it, to hear my story. Definitely no expert for sure. There's so much to learn still, but yeah. Yes.
There is so much to learn, and we are excited to hear it. So Lindsay, I want to hear your journey.
Well, I'm from California, born in Northern California, Santa Clara. Then played soccer at Clemson, went to Clemson, played soccer, then professionally played in Boston and San Jose. So back to California. And then I'm very passionate about soccer. So I took up women's college coaching, and I was at Northeastern for a while. I was in many places, but I ended at Northeastern, and then I finally moved to Colorado, and I'm in Denver now. Yeah.
Okay, so Denver has gotten very, very, very expensive over the last 2, 3, 4 years. They are building, I'm sure you've seen a huge amount of new absorption there. You chose to go to Kansas City is your market. So tell
Yes.
everybody why you chose that market and what you're finding there.
Yeah, I chose that market. Well, I joined the Wares of Wealth, obviously, and it's remote investing. I was looking in Denver, but as you know, it's very expensive. And um, if you want a cash flow, that's not really the place to do it. So it's great equity, but not cash flow. So when I joined the Wares of Wealth, they teach you how to do everything from A to Z. So I was analyzing the markets, and I really liked Kansas City for a lot of reasons. They have they're just revitalizing their neighborhoods. They are bringing in so many things. Google's going in there, which is awesome. They are building this thing for the Royals called Ballpark Row, which is going to bring a ton of money in. They're creating this like park. It's 4 miles long. It goes over the highways. It's connecting all the districts in downtown, which was really cool. It reminds me of a little Denver, although I have not been there, but they have all these cool little districts. The light district, the art district. So they have so many districts. They have a ton of infrastructure going in to support all this growth, economic growth. And so I was very interested in looking into that city.
So what inspired you? You've been in construction management, project management in kind of that real estate position, but what was your interest in going into commercial? What was the impetus to that?
Yeah, well, I work for a builder here in Denver. And we're a small company. It's him and I. So I manage all his projects. I'm the GC on site. And I was realizing, wow, I'm making him a lot of money. And so
Ah,
I was like, I got to get into this somehow, some way. I got to do my own stuff. So then I actually got on this Facebook masterclass for just it's Ring Group. It's honestly just for single family homes, and it's mainly for flipping. It was like a $17 masterclass, but it propelled me to look into other things. And then from there I bought my first short-term rental,
okay.
and thought that was the way to go because I was making a lot of money. But it's work. I'm managing the property myself, which is fine, and I'm managing a couple of properties. And then I just started looking at commercial real estate, thinking about passive income, and like, oh, I don't have to, you can actually get a property manager and do the thing. And I was watching a couple groups on Facebook, and Jen and Stacy with the Wow Group was one. And once I started following them more, I was like, okay, this is the way to go. So once joining that group, that's kind of how I started getting into commercial real estate and learning that there are a lot of benefits from getting into it.
And building a team, right? I mean, it really is understanding what you're good at, right? And then finding the other people to really fit those other roles. So we again talked to Jen and Stacy Conkey a couple of weeks ago. We talked about all the different roles. So in the program, you figured out what your role is. So what is your role? I think it's acquisitions, but if you would tell us how you decided that was the role for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, they do teach to try to learn all the roles first in your first couple deals so that you can not only understand everything, but you're checking on other people. Even though you have a team and a partner, you still want to check each other, right? and just make sure everything's correct. So they do want you to learn everything. Although I thought I was going to be an asset manager, because that's kind of I manage projects constantly, and that's my background. And I do love seeing the value add piece of it, like taking something that's nothing to something really cool. So I was very interested in that. But then once I started getting into it, I realized that I love the acquisition piece. I love the chase and trying to get the building and under contract for maybe lower than what they're offering, always lower than what they're offering. But yeah, so it's just fun searching and talking to the realtors and then getting under contract and doing the thing, and then eventually acquiring the building. So
I mean, that is the biggest win for you, is figuring out what your space was and where you excelled, and then successfully taking one down. So this is the meat of this conversation. I really want you don't have to spice it up, but this was a challenging deal that you found. And you found it back, I think, in October or September. I can't remember, when you and
October,
yeah, we started talking. We met, I think, in October.
mm-hmm.
You would think you were still working on it, and we provided a debt source for you. There was things that were a challenge just because Lindsay is in Colorado. We had some limitations because she didn't have boots on the ground. She didn't have any partners in Kansas City. Then she needed to look at, well, what kind of lenders are going to allow this? And I want you to tell us a little bit about the asset itself. But we chose to look at bridge lending because there was a lot of renovations that needed to come with it. And we couldn't go to bank because bank needs somebody local. So that was off the table. And this asset didn't, we couldn't qualify yet for agency because it was not 90% occupied. So there were things that we had to be really particular about on the lending side. So tell us a little bit about this asset, how you found it, the relationship you built with the broker, how long did that take, and how did they start sending you opportunities, and this one worked?
Yeah. So I just honestly started calling a bunch of different brokers, agents, and the one that stuck, he just was a go-getter, and he was going to do the thing. And he started sending me all these apartment buildings and deals, and I started underwriting them. And this one I really liked. It's a brick 37 unit. It was a value add 37 unit building, 3-story, one building. It was brick. It's really beautiful. And it was close to downtown. And yeah, I started analyzing the deal and realized it worked at a certain number, and we just went after it that way. And then as the negotiations took a very long time, as you know, I saw the deal in October, and we went through negotiations all the way until end of December. I finally got under contract, which was crazy. And this is my first deal, so I didn't know really how all this goes. So I was like, right. The sellers didn't seem really that nice, actually. So they weren't helpful. They just were and they were on their own timeline for sure, taking their time. But once we worked the deal and they decided on a number and were okay with the number I wanted, we got under contract, and from then it was a roller coaster.
So let's talk about, it was a 37 unit building, but the city had it registered as a 35 unit building. So yes. It was 2 were illegal. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, it was 2 were non-conforming, which we pulled all the title reports and all the things. We didn't find anything in that. And honestly, it came down to the last like 3 days before we were going to close. We found out that it was a 35 unit building, and the appraiser's like, we got it. The appraisal went crazy. At first, the appraisal was great. We thought we actually gained $250,000 over what we were under contract at. We were like, yeah, this is great. And then 3 days before we were supposed to close, the appraisal had to get redone because the one guy quit. And I don't know, it was just a mess. And then they're like, oh.
Let's unpack that for just a second. So Lindsay went to a lender and they said, hey, why don't you we'll do the appraisal for it. Now, typically what you do is you have a contract, you have an application with a lender, and then they hire the appraisal. You pay an application fee, and that money goes towards hiring, engineering, your appraisal, and your environmental. So this lender told Lindsay, hey, you don't have to use us, but you can pay us $3,000 for an appraisal. So the concern on that is that if she doesn't use that lender, she might have to go pay for another appraisal because the new lender might not allow that. We checked that out. Once we found out that the appraisal was getting done by this other lender, they approved it. So we're in this, we're doing it. 3 weeks down the road, the appraiser quits and hadn't put the report together, completed it. So they had to hire another appraiser from the same company to oversee it. So he's overseeing the appraisal, trying to get this back to Lindsay, and that guy quits. So she had to pay an extra $900 to have another appraiser take a look at it. So unfortunate, but it all worked out. But didn't see that there was only 35 units, not 37. So we had to kind of negotiate through that. And there were 2 units in the basement, but we didn't know if they were 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom. So there was some question about that. So you negotiated it. These guys who own this property needed to get out of this loan. They needed to get out of this property. So they had a time frame. They wanted to get in and out. And they were on their 5th property manager. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it was just going south for them. Yeah, they were on their 5th, I think, property manager. And the building was 68% vacant. And the problem was when we negotiated the contract, I was talking to my property manager and he's like, don't allow them to put any more tenants in, because that way, when we get in, we can fill those units quickly with the tenants we want, and we don't have to wait for them to get out. And
that was a good strategy. That was a great strategy because yes, you were going to have to pay a little bit more for your bridge loan, because bridge loans are for deals that are less than 90% occupied. And then she could put her own people in it and then put in good people, renovate it, put her good people in, and then we could get refinanced into another better loan. So we go out there, Lindsay, and we get the appraiser out there, and we get the bank's person to go out there to inspect it. What do they find in 3 of the units, or how many people did they find on that property that were not supposed to be there?
Yeah, there were, when the inspector came out, or when the inspection happened from the bank, they did see some squatters. And so we were like, oh, great. So what does that mean for, are they gonna, lend to us? What are they gonna want us to do with these squatters? And how are we gonna be able to do this and get them out and secure the building? We did find out later that it actually was, there were 2 doors that were locked and they actually didn't want to go in there, but there was 1 door open and they did see a person in there. So it was that one squatter that they had to get out, but they thought it was more at the time. Okay. So yeah, it was.
So you talk to your property manager, gives you great information, and you decide I think we want to hire these guys. And they come and say, listen, we can take care of those squatters. Before we take over, we're going to get rid of those squatters. Well, I'm like, I'm in California. Squatters have more rights than any of us. And we talked to your property manager, who I want to get a little bit more into that. But they say, don't worry about it. We'll take care of this. And I'm thinking, in California, that would never happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting because, well, what happened was the contract was only supposed to last so long, right? I think we were on a 60-day close, but we kept pushing it because the sellers were not agreeing to certain things. So it just was going longer and longer and longer. And we were almost on, like, it was going to be 75 days. And the seller said, well, you need to get your property manager in here to manage this, because they were having so much trouble with their property manager managing. So they asked us to pay for our property manager in good faith that we were actually going to buy the building, pay for our property manager to come in the last month and manage the situation. So I got on the phone with my property manager. He's like, I'll do it, but they need to pay me. You're not paying me. They're going to pay me. And I will. And I said, well, can you get these squatters out of here? I mean, well, I text him and he said, this is not a conversation to have over text. So he called me and he's like, I said, so can you get them out? And he's like, you don't need to worry about it. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen. Just know they'll be gone. I was like, okay, is that allowed in Kansas City? And he's like, yes, it's fine. We do this all the time. So
well, let me just make sure everybody understands this. They wanted her property manager to come in and pay to rent these, or to manage this property, and she didn't even own it yet. So these property managers were willing to go in after 5 property managers and run it. Now, you did mention that you were going to pay. Did you end up paying for their for what, 60 days while you were under contract for them to manage the property for the seller?
Yeah, actually, we did pay but we didn't pay up front.
In the rears.
We paid in the rears, yes.
Okay. So that's amazing, you guys. That doesn't happen very often. And it typically is not done because the seller doesn't know if you're going to close.
Yeah.
But they were in such bad, position. They were just willing to bring them on, and it was worth it. Both of them, both parties really believed that this was the best way to go. All right. Lot going on. The other thing is let's talk about the tenants themselves, because this, I think, is an interesting makeup of the residents. This property manager is used to having Section 8 or low income affordable housing people. So what did you do? How are you structuring this now for new residents? What is the business plan?
Yeah, well, when we first looked at it, the OM kind of shared 3 business plans. It was to take all fair market renters, or do half subsidized, half fair market rent, or do all subsidized housing. And all subsidized housing looked the best, honestly. I mean, you're getting a lot more rent than what the fair market rent would be. So when I found this property manager, I spoke to him. My agent actually introduced me to him and said, this is the best guy to do this type of property and asset class. And as we spoke, it was literally, from October until April that we were on the phone constantly every day, understanding his passion for this asset class. He really loves working with vets specifically. So that was our business model. We were going to put as many vets as possible in the building, and then also fill others with the subsidized housing, through subsidized housing. And so it was 68% occupied at the time. We had 13 vacant units, and we had several units not paying rent, that were delinquent or really under market rent. So our plan was to, as soon as this property turned, we were going to use this property manager, and he would come in, fill the vacant units first, and then get everyone either up to date on paying what it should be at the subsidized rent, or letting them go and then putting that's in there. And our mission was, I really want to do something for the community.
Yeah.
So I love what I do here in Denver, because we take something from nothing and build something, right? And it adds to the value of the city. And I love this property because we're going to help a community that sometimes can't help themselves, and give back. And he's very passionate about it. He has a process for it. Has a system in place that, it's not always easy managing these types of tenants. So we were excited, and and that's our business plan, and that's kind of what's taking place right now.
Okay. So another thing that happened is some of my lenders looked at the property and did a Google view of the front of the building, and then turned their camera around to the other side of the building. And the other side of across the street was it wasn't a homeless shelter, but the lender said, we don't want to have any issues. And it ended up being just fine with the lender that we chose as a bridge lender. They were fine with, the location, but we also wanted to make sure that in the future, this property across the street wouldn't be an issue. And on agency, it's not going to be an issue. We were looking at some other types of lending sources. But you also were asked, what kind of mitigation are you going to put in for safety? So can you talk a little bit about that, what you're doing, and what is in place?
Yeah, we put security cameras up, which is great. The property manager advised to do that just because he has them on all his properties, and he likes to see what's going in and out of the building constantly. We put exterior lighting up. There was already some there, but more. And then we did already have a gate around the property parking lot, and it's actually an enclosed, locked, like iron gate. So that's really nice. People just can't get into the property and like camp out there or do that type of thing. We put in a new front door that's heavy duty and whatnot. So yeah, those are a couple of things that we did.
Well, fantastic. So you get to the place where we're under contract, and you now have 30 days left to close this deal. So how was that for you? 30 days, guys and gals, that is a very quick turn for a lender, but also obviously from the buyer side. You've got to have a ton of paperwork ready to go. So Lindsay, 30 days, how did you manage that? You're working full time on your W-2. What are some of the challenges that you faced that you think the people in the audience would need to know if they're under the gun on something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because Jen and Stacy, the minute that you come into their program, they talk about mindset. That mindset is 80%. It's 80% mindset and it's 20% real estate. And it's funny because I completely believe that now. I felt like an imposter when I first started, and I was like, oh my gosh, can I really do this? I mean, you see all these people that are doing it, and you just don't know that you can do it. But yeah, we had 30 days to raise $1.3 million. And it was very stressful. I had a couple partners at the beginning of this deal that actually backed out just for various reasons. They didn't love how the sellers were communicating with us, and I was the acquisition manager, so I was very involved and very passionate about this deal. I had a capital raiser and an asset manager. Actually, I had two capital raisers. Stephen is one of them. He hung in there with me. Thank you, Stephen. But yeah, the other capital raiser and my asset manager decided to leave the deal, which was totally fine. It was, it was what it was. It was a blessing in disguise. I would say that make sure you know who your partners are and you know what they're going to do in certain instances and things
In
like
times
that.
of struggle, and
Yeah.
when the heat
Yeah.
is turned up, it is
Yes.
tough.
Yes, for sure. And so, yeah, 1.3 million, 30 days. Our backs were against the wall. It was a constant. I've never raised money. I'm not a capital raiser. I was scared of it, honestly. I was in my mindset, I was thinking, oh, I'm begging for money. I'm needing to ask for money, and it's not really what I should do. But then I spent a lot of time with Jen. She's the mindset coach and another person. And I realized, wow, I'm actually giving these people a great deal because our cash on cash was 10 to 12% at the time. And the annual average is, I think, 27%. So I had to shift my mindset and go, okay, I have 30 days to make this happen and I can't worry about what people think. I'm just going to go out there and do it. And I'm going to give them a great deal and an opportunity to increase their wealth and be a part of an amazing deal. And so I think if you don't, I don't know, it sounds like a lot of people have experience here, but if you feel like you aren't a capital raiser or you don't know how to ask for the money, or I think it's literally just going and doing it over and over again and realizing that you're not just begging for money, you are actually giving these individuals an opportunity to create something bigger. So yeah.
That gives me chills. Really well said. You probably didn't practice that, but that was really well said and such the truth. So how are things going now? You've been in it for almost 3 months. How are things going? How is the plan? Have you run into any problems that you didn't foresee? And how are you managing those?
Actually, no, everything's going really well. We are filling the vacant units where we have 4 left to fill. And those are coming in. It's all HUD VASH and subsidized housing. So it does take a minute. You have to get inspections, as you know, and do all the things properly. And so it takes a little bit more time, but we are moving in the right direction. The only thing that I would say that we've run across is our property manager is amazing. And we had great communication. I think he's starting, he's done this for a very long time for himself. So he's not only a property manager, but he's invested and he property manages his own buildings. He's recently only got into the realm of doing it for other owners. So his communication right now is a little slow. And that's the only, but he's doing his job. But I just would like more answers sometimes. And I'm like, hello, where are you? I need to know what's going on. But
Yeah.
it's all working out. It's just, but yeah, things have been great.
I mean, that is the tough part because your minutes are there weeks, right? You just want to have this information. They're like, yeah, I'll get around to it. So I understand that. And sometimes just saying, hey, this is who I am and I need to hear from you at a certain amount of time that goes by. But those you can manage those brilliantly, I'm sure. So, well, fantastic. And by the way, this asset will, because it's affordable housing, the agencies really want, their mission is to put as many American people in affordable housing. So your next step on the finance side is an agency loan, and they will reduce your interest based on it being affordable. So you've got that to look forward to. once you complete your business plan. So if somebody were to ask you, what, words of wisdom to finding properties, to underwriting them, to executing them, what are your words of wisdom for new investors to get a deal across the finish line? And that could be on any of those topics.
Sure. Yeah, I think when I first got into the deal, Jen and Stacy teach not to do a syndication at first. And I know a lot of people here do syndications and are experienced with that. So, but they teach not to do that because it's so much more than just a JV deal. And it's a lot more money raising. And if you're not experienced with that, then it's just a lot more stress, and you could potentially fail and not close, and then have that failure on your mind and go, I can't do this. So really, my first suggestion would be don't start with a syndication if you don't have the experience. I would say start out small enough to get a JV deal across the line so you have the experience and you are confident to move forward with a syndication in your next deal. And then I'd also say, just if you're just starting out, make connections, network. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? I would not be here tonight if I didn't have these connections and mentors and just people supporting me. I mean, Stephen and Dell are here, and just that is huge. And it's great to have the support of other people that are doing the same thing. And same with calling people, research markets, call, and get something. And you should be analyzing deals. I try to analyze, at least, I don't know, 40 deals a week and put LOIs in constantly. Like I'm just putting LOIs in, even if we were just under contract twice, actually, on 2 deals in Kansas City. Again, they were seller financing deals, which was great, but they didn't pan out. Once I underwrote it, or once I did the due diligence, we kind of backed out of those. But it doesn't matter if you can put the LOI in and get experience just going through the due diligence and all the deal stuff. You're going to get more confident to get to the next one, to actually get it under contract and close.
Yeah, fantastic. So Lucia says, Massengale 23 and 23. Look at that with your stalker on the back. So well done, Lindsay.
I love that. Yeah.
Now, Paula asks, how did your history in soccer playing help you in your mindset for this deal to completion? That's a good question.
That's a great question. It's funny because I actually totally believe that being taught, when I went to Clemson, I had a coach that taught visualization. And so we would visualize constantly, playing and what we wanted our bodies to be doing in the game. And visualization takes not only visualizing it, but your heart has to feel it. You have to feel the energy. You have to feel everything. It's not just about the mind seeing it, but you have to feel all the emotions. So I took that, and they teach that in the WOW program. Jen teaches how to visualize, and I literally was meditating every morning. Wow. And visualizing closing this deal. I was appreciating it already. I was having gratitude for closing it. I was having gratitude for the money coming in. I was excited and thankful that I had already closed it and it wasn't closed yet. So I throughout that 30 days on, I was meditating every morning and seeing what I wanted my future to be. And that's kind of how I did when I was playing professionally as well.
Oh, that's great input. All right. Paula also had a question. Does the city of Kansas City, are any of the police doing anything to help your business? Are they circling? Do you have a police officer that watches out?
They do have police circling definitely those neighborhoods. I mean, it's actually not a terrible neighborhood. It's being revitalized. It's really a great neighborhood, but it is 3 miles from downtown, and so there's a lot going on there. So they do have police circulating. My property manager actually knows an officer, so they communicate all the time, and they will help if there's like a camp that's just camped out somewhere. My property manager has said that they come and help police that area when they're trying to get those people out. So yeah.
Well, that's great, great.
Yeah.
Listen, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you to, maybe some encouragement or just to get your sense on Kansas City,
Yeah.
how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, I will put my stuff in the chat, but definitely email me directly. I can put my phone number there as well. My email is lm@rise, RISE, ventures.com. So go ahead and email directly, but I'll put my stuff in the chat. You can call me, text me. I would love to reach out to anyone who wants to reach out and chat about anything.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is there anybody in the room before we go on to our breakout sessions that has a burning question? I think that, Lindsay, you've done such a great job of explaining the experience and the challenges that you faced that were not your challenges. They were sellers' challenges. They were property specific for the lenders' challenges. You being not at the location was a challenge for you. And obviously the people that were squatting there was a challenge, but you rose to it. And I just want to, give you the high fives that, you did an awesome job. Candace.
A great presentation, Lindsay. That was so empowering to hear your story. And
thank you.
It's once you get into your first deal, you'll learn that I'm only in two. So like I'm just as new as you are, but every deal is completely different. And you go through your own, no matter how much due diligence you do, you get hit with all sorts of things and you just go with whatever you can go with at the time. My question is, I totally love the concept of what your group was teaching about syndication, not be first. That's how I ended up kind of going into it. Yeah. And it is extremely stressful. I'm just curious as to when you did your raise, were you able to bring other people in or did you do that entire raise by yourself?
So actually, I had Stephen Marks, which he's on the call tonight. He is a capital raiser. He was in there, helping capital raise. And then we asked, and then I have another partner, Rachel, who is acquisition and asset manager. She's not a capital raiser, but she did bring in money because our backs were against the wall, honestly. We all had to do it. And so it was Rachel and I and Stephen. Stephen's wife helped because she's in the program as well. And yeah, I did have to raise a lot. I raised almost 900,000 by myself.
Wow.
But it was a group effort. Everybody was supporting everybody. But yeah, it was stressful.
So she's a parent.
Yeah.
She's a W-2 worker. She is in a deal and she's capital raising. I mean, that is amazing. And in 30 days, just amazing.
30 days, the amount that you raise, Lindsay, you have no idea how amazing that was. That was just beyond. It's really cool. So hats off to you. Great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good job. All right, Chris DeSalle's got a question.
Hey, great job. Thank you so much for the trials and tribulations. Hey, how long is your bridge loan for? And do they have any step down penalties if you want to get out of it early?
So it's a 2-year loan. We have to be in it at least 6 months, and no penalty after that.
Yeah, so we structured this so that we front loaded the origination fee, 1.25, and then she has no exit fee, and then she'll go into an agency for another 1%. So that's how we did that. There is also this is a 2-year fixed bridge. So a little bit more expensive, but we don't have to deal with a rate cap on the adjustable side. So that was helpful. The way that this was structured, you usually have to have a debt yield of about 9.5, 10, and it wasn't fitting for a regular adjustable rate. We looked at CMBS, that didn't work for the location. So we looked at a lot of things, but we were so happy to be able to execute in 30 days. We reduced the LTV, the proceeds, from 75 to 70 because the lender did not like the owners, because they were doing some things that were not upfront. So they pulled the proceeds on that. But all in all, the deal still works, and really a success story. So any other questions on that, Chris?
No, great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
You know,
Chris.
what I love about it is it's your first one. You get to know Lindsay. She's gone through it. She's obviously skilled in what she does for her W-2. She knows how to make partners. She's got a great support team with the Warriors of Wealth. And, you know, if you are looking at all to get educated, I say this almost every week, 2 things you need to do. 1, you need to be educated. So if you are thinking about, hey, I want to do what Lindsay did, you need to get educated. And so you might think about joining Jen and Stacy's program. There are a lot of other programs out there. RE Mentor, who Rhea works with. There's Brad Sumrock. There's a lot of others, but you have to have the right fit. The personalities have to be the right fit. But I do like Jen and Stacy's program because they are telling their investors, start small. This is a process. It's not the short, get rich quick. It is the long game. And then second thing I say, you need to invest in someone else's deal. So now you've met Lindsay. She may have another deal in the future. You've heard her success story. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to find a deal that you can invest in. Because how can you be a general partner if you don't know how to communicate with others? It's really important. So again, thank you, Lindsay. Great job, great success story. I'm so excited for you and for your future in multifamily.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I really appreciate you having me on. And Julie's amazing. I mean, she helped me close this deal, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.